Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is the 9th of August, 2023. Assalamu alaikum. And my topic today is reality check. What I am interested in is to try and summarize very deep issues that confuses people often. And so I call this a reality check. One of the core features of our Western life is that we tend to want to change it, but we don't understand how it actually operates. So you have a lot of what we would call critiques in academia, in politics, etc. But they don't realize how the colonial system, in actual fact, have managed to change the mindsets of people to submit to the kind of systems that they have. Even the so-called enfranchised themselves are not under the impression that they understand what the the lifestyle is supposed to be, but they are trapped. So let me quickly just tell or share with you the kind of research that I've done over the 28 years and found out a kind of a solution to change that dynamics of thinking. One of the core features of the changes that we have experienced in our lives as families, as communities, as our in our even in our faith, in our cultures, is that we didn't realize how the schooling system actually destroys the self-esteem. Having said that, how does it do it? If you look at the fact that they will have like the media and the academia will have professors and doctorates telling you about certain things, and they tell you this so often, government and business, etc., that you tend to believe that this is the truth. But if we watch our children, we can actually, our children who are not mukallaf yet, who are not really haven't reached puberty yet, you'll find that they have a kind of an inkling of what is the truth. So one of our features that we can in actual fact look at is, why does a child cry when he goes to school? Because his natural life, his natural divine essence, which is something the West doesn't believe in, that children, they think children are like, doesn't know anything. Children have a natural inkling to what is truth because they have not committed any sins, because they're not at that particular choice factor yet. They are living a life of complete trust in their parents, in God, etc. And so they are very much pure. So we have actually developed a kind of a statement saying, out of the mouths of babes. When children tell you something, then it's the truth. Simply because deep down inside of us, we know that as children, we were more aware of divine connection than as we grew older. So the children cry when you put them into grade 1, because they know deep down essentially that this is going to be an oppressive situation. I'm going to be told what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be free to do what I would like to do. I can't freely learn. And so you find the children, when they start going to school, they actually stop learning. And that is the first form of formal child abuse. And that allows other people to abuse them later on, because they've learned to obey adults. The exam system and the assessment criteria that you assess a person to fail or pass further breaks down the self-esteem of our children. So that if we are drugs, etc., or stresses and so on, it's all related to the fact that we have allowed ourselves to accept this colonial system of education, which is actually geared to brainwash people to believe in the culture of capitalism, which has as its basis individualism. If you can cut out a person from his parents, his community, his faith, and you redefine everything for him, then he's got that individual who will compete with anybody, even his parents and even with the creator himself. So, and the other feature is that the Western educated religious people who are English speaking, they tend to translate the Arabic of Islam and the Hebrew of the Torah and the Injil, which is the Bible, in English terms. But English has a very militaristic and a very kind of separatist meaning pattern. It's not as beautiful and as communicative like the Arabic language, which is more welcoming, yet it says similar things that what. I'll give an example. If you say no, no is very abrupt, very pushy, very like challenging. But in Arabic, if you say no in Arabic, it tells you no, but it also invites you. You actually say la. The frequency of those two words makes a massive difference to your inner self and your outer self, to your relationship, to your inner relationship, and to your outer relationship. So as long as people in policy development, in academia, and in government, and in society accept the fact of schooling as is, in actual fact, peer group assessment, peer group classes, grades, examinations, tests, etc., prescribed curriculum. And as long as you believe in that, it doesn't matter what policy you're going to write. The fact of the matter is you've believed in the actual knife that stabs the whole of a person or stabs the heart of a person. So all of the work that is being done and writing and PhDs and professorships, etc., in the different fields that are not connected is the perfect planning system of colonial thinking. So you can't Islamize anything of what they've done, because you will Islamize something that is determined by the fact to separate it from the Tawheed, from the unity of things. So if you really want to bring things together, you need to unite everything within the concept of integrated relatedness and also gratitude. Important is gratitude. If you think that you are studying something in order to compete with somebody else, then you're in for trouble. But if you learn in order to apply certain skills that the Creator has given you in order to help people and bring people together, irrespective of race, creed, or color, you are on the right track, because this is your duty as a human being, to be the representative of God, of divine beauty. And if you try to compete with it, then you come up with different kinds of philosophies and different kinds of psychologies and different kinds of sociology. I think it's all of those kind of subsections, or not subsections, different kind of disciplines, as they call it. So there's only one particular discipline in life, and that is the realization of the value of the fact that everything is connected and everything has a divine essence. Everything has a form and has a guidance from the Creator. And if you want to find out what is that, you need to quiet your mind. Take away all that kind of preconceived ideas and just quietly look at something with observation of gratitude. And the vibrations of that will create a kind of a communication with what you're looking at and yourself. Because now you are vibrating on a pure level, on a fitra level, on a nature, on a divine level, because the thing that you're looking at is also submitting to the Creator's guidance that it has given is for its own survival. But it doesn't have a choice. But we have a choice as human beings, as well as the jinn, as created from pure fire. So If you can make people believe that your religion is a culture, then you can trip people. But if you redefine the word religion from the Arabic meaning dana, the root word dana meaning to be indebted. In other words, your learning is to find out how much indebted you are to the Creator. Then this is a new world. If the Creator asks us in the Quran that there are very few people that tell us that there are very few people that are grateful to Allah for being able to see, to hear, and use their mind. Very few people thank Allah for that. Now, if we are grateful to the Creator, He will grant us more vision, because the world is an illusion. Whatever we see is an illusion. It is the manner in which we look at things that will make it truthful. If we come from a divine perspective, we will see the truth. If we come from a materialistic perspective, we will not see the truth. We will be totally in illusion. And then we will think that we are right. Okay, let me give you a practical example of the fact that we're living in an illusionary way if we do not stimulate our real self, which is taking the soul and vibrating it on the goodness that the Creator has given us, so that it connects with the spirit, which is the ruh, and then it brings the body with it. The body starts seeing things deeper than what the average person who is only materialistically inclined can see. And we will call it in Western terms a sixth sense. But the fact that there are people like that makes us realize that if we haven't got that sixth sense, we are not actually giving full value to ourselves as human beings. And human beings in Islam means people that are amicable, people that work with one another, that are tolerant, that are decent, that are not aggressive. All of those things are part of being a human being. If we apply anything other than that, then we're not human. Then we basically become more satanic. We start competing with each other, start killing each other, start doing all sorts of other things against each other, but we can't see the beauty between each other. So to experience the beauty of life is to become grateful. In other words, you're looking at an apple, you see it is green. And in physics we learned, if we take physics now as a subject, but if we look at the experimentation, the green apple is green because it absorbs all the other frequencies of the spectrum, and it reflects the green to our eye. That's what we see, because we see in the reflection. So if the color that something has is the color it doesn't want, in other words, it reflects from itself, then what's the real color of something? And that's a beautiful kind of explanation of the fact that what we see is not necessarily what is. So if you base our lives on what we observe as fact in terms of, say, science, then we're living in an illusion, because what we observe depends on our media that we look at. It depends on our own intentions. It depends on the level of our spirituality, how we see things. And it depends on the fact whether we are tuned in for the truth or whether we are tuned in for some other means or intention. So yes, our world is the world that we create. And we know from our cell phones that whatever we click on, the algorithms will give us that particular life and that particular interest according to what we have clicked on. But it's not everybody's world. It's only our world. Now, similarly, like that works on technology, it works on our intentions in life. If you want to see evil, you will see evil. If you want to see good, you will see good. Because you become blind to that which you're not focused on. So even in our particular normal sight, if we look at something and we focus on it, everything else becomes blurred. And when we take our focus away and we look at something else, that thing that we previously looked at becomes blurred. So our experience of life is dependent on where our focus lies. So if our focus lies on ourselves, and our focus lies on, we want to create power, we want to create, be the best at this and that, and we don't think about the Creator being the ultimate power, then we are going to look at life totally different. And we're going to be so kind of one of the things that really makes you realize that you're looking at life differently is if you are moaning all the time. If nothing is good enough for you and you always moan every time, ungrateful, then you know you are in a state of illusion. Because really life is beautiful. It depends on how you perceive it. So if you listen to some people speak, you will feel some people, if something say negative to them, they will actually tell you no, but you must think of that side. They are wonderful people. They see the beauty of things. Others, if you tell them this is wrong, they'll tell you something else is wrong, and so it goes on, and you never get anywhere in terms of what is the reality or what is the beauty of things. So my work in terms of holistic leisure learning was to integrate all the kind of various subjects that existed at that Western world as separated into subjects and grades, etc., and bring it together onto a higher level of reflection and integrate them and consider what we are learning as a miracle of God, a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an exemplar, as an absolute wonder. So when you actually then teach photosynthesis, you're not teaching biology. You're teaching an absolute miracle of Allah. You cannot actually explain it in real terms. It is beyond our understanding. Because photosynthesis and breathing and respiration by itself does not work in a space and timeless zone. It is a completely spiritual thing. It's something that works in space and time, in no space and time. There's no space and time. If you ask a person how many seconds does it take for your breathing and your excretion system and your nervous system, all of that to work together instantaneously, they won't be able to give you a 0.0 seconds because it doesn't work within this particular realm. It's actually a gift from the Creator. It is the Ruh, the spirit of the Creator, that makes all those organs in actual fact work instantaneously and beyond instantaneously, if you want to call it that way. And that is the beauty. And if you want to know, for instance, how is that possible? Because if the body by itself worked without a spirit, then there would be no death. Because if a person if there's a body lying there with all the lungs, it should be working on its own. But the heart doesn't work, the lung doesn't work, nothing works in except because it has stopped. But the organs are still there. There is another force that divine spirit that is inside of that particular body that makes it work. Now the nafs is out. The nafs is the soul. And the ruh is disconnected now because the body is now on its own. It's a piece of clay. That's why I call it dead weight. It's difficult to pick up a dead person because there is no spirit in it. When the spirit is in it, you can pick up a person because there's a light in it. So there's your other example of how do you know you're on the wrong track. If you become depressed with anything, then you're on the wrong track. If you become motivated, then you're on the right track because now you're working the energy of your ruh, of your spirit. You're tuning into that. You're not tuning into the body itself, which makes you tired because it is in actual fact your physical clay body that you are tapping into. Now, children are a perfect example of tapping into the spirit because they have endless energy. They are so active and so much learning while they are still, growing, etc., that you realize that the energy is beyond that. And they also live a very spiritual life. They can forgive very easily, etc. They start a new feature. They do all the things that the human being is supposed to do, but is not doing. I'm talking about an adult because he's been brainwashed to do certain things in a certain way, etc., etc. Now, it's not that we are saying now religion and law brings out this particular feature that stops you. No, it is the child in his absolute essence is just beautiful and exciting to do things. It is the environment in which he is, are you with me, that will in actual fact impact on the way he responds to it. But we have to change that environment in order to make him or to make her in actual fact relate in its pure self. The moment we change the environment, we change the child. But some children stay the same, irrespective of what you do. But that we cannot explain. There are some people that are very good, irrespective of what conditions they are in. And there are some people who are influenced by the environment. And there are some children who are just evil. We don't know how that is. But we are given advice in terms of how do you procreate, how do you get married first, and then when you have sex, when you ejaculate, you make this particular dua, you ask Allah to protect the child from Satan. Now we don't do that kind of stuff. So if we don't do that kind of stuff, then we are opening ourselves up to an enormous amount of influences, and it becomes very difficult for us to get back to our fitrah, our unity of soul, spirit, and body, which is in actual fact, when it's in unison, it runs at the same frequency. It can only be divine. It can only do the good things, inshallah. I've just given you a kind of so if one looks at the Western world in terms of its terminology and wanting to create this terminology, then all they do is to confuse people. They try to confuse people to take them away from the truth. So philosophy is an outflow of a religion. They didn't want to accept what the prophets are saying, so they make up their own truths. Then they make up their own terminologies. One of the core terminologies that are now being thrown around at university is consciousness. What is consciousness? Well, I can tell you, consciousness is not in the brain. Consciousness is actually the choice of the soul to make a decision. And the consciousness by itself is the soul itself. So the mind is the choice that the soul makes in order to instruct the brain what to do. And then the brain reacts to what the soul has chosen to use its mind or its choice factor. And that is so interesting, because how do we know that? It's because some people's brains are completely non-functional, but they can tell you what they've experienced in the other world. They could see who looked after them while they were in a coma or when they were operated on. They can actually tell you what conversations they were. And therefore, it is a proof of the fact that the soul has left, and the soul is able to have the consciousness of what happened. And the mind is the choice factor that the soul makes to either link into the body and what the body needs, which is the lower self, or it links into what the spirit or the ruh asks us to relate to in order to raise the frequency of our life. So when you look at our modern world, we'll find, for instance, most of the things that people speak about as kind of healing in this, and this is a better way of it. It's all part of the whole. It's part of the consciousness of what the Creator has given every single human being and every single part in nature and in the universe, that it actually operates on a divine order, the divine guidance that it was given. How do we know that the universe in itself is also is operating on a divine level of complete submission or complete harmony with the Creator and what the Creator wants? If we want to relax, we actually go lie down and look at the stars, and we keep quiet. And we let the vibrations of the stars get through to us and raise our level of frequency of life. If we want to relax, we go to the beach. We look at the sun, and the stars and the skies and the blue sky and the water and the white sand, and we keep quiet. We don't make a noise, because now we are actually truly just taking in the vibrations of the submission to God of all the universes and all the whatever in the earth is, because it is all humble towards the Creator. Because we are now humble, we're keeping quiet. And then when we keep quiet, we in actual fact feel the vibrations of peace. And people always say, Islam is a way of life. Islam is the essence of every existence. It is the peace and harmony that exists in the universe. It's not just depends on humans. Allah can take all of us away, and Islam will still the feature of soundness and peace and submission to the beauty of that Allah has created, it will still exist without us. So that is probably one of the core reasons why people always have this kind of philosophical arguments and academic kind of papers writing about what is faith and what is religion and the way of life and the policies. Allah doesn't need us, the Creator doesn't need us at all, because every star and every tree and every piece of sand and every molecule, every atom submits to the will of the Creator. It does exactly what the will of the Creator is guided is. And how do we know? Because everything orbits. Everything orbits. And when a man or a person is in a state of remembrance of God, he actually automatically orbits. Whether they stand by the Wailing Wall or whether they're sitting in the mosque, he starts remembering God, he starts moving, the body starts moving. And some people can move at such a state that they can transcend space and time. Their body comes in line with the spirit and they lift off the gravity. Now, some people will say, no, that is not possible. It's not possible because you cannot understand it because you are not there. You cannot tell a pilot that what he's doing is not good or cannot happen because you can't be a pilot. No, you got to learn to become a pilot and then you will be able to fly that plane. Similarly, people who have a more spiritual dimension of connection with the spirit and has raised their soul, their nafs up to that level and brought the body with, they experience other worlds. They experience things. It's amazing. Alhamdulillah. So this is an introduction to the fact that there is a kind of a misrepresentation of what we are doing and what we are thinking about, and how we talk about change, but we don't want to change certain things because we have been trapped in thinking about, assessments and criteria and passing and failing because it's all related to a job. We want to have a job so that we can earn. That is not in our hands. The Creator provides us with our means of income. And that's why our forefathers, when they told the Muslims in the Cape, you cannot go to school beyond grade 4. If you want to go to school, it was mostly missionary schools. We're talking about not state schools. Because the Muslims in Burqa had madrasas. From the moment they arrived here, they had madrasas. And the amount of madrasas and the power of the madrasas in actual fact made the authorities, which is the British at the time, to say, look, we need to start schools because many of the local people are becoming Muslim. Many of the African slaves are becoming Muslim. So they are creating a wonderful opportunity for people. And before that happens, we need to start having schools. And so they started Christian schools. So when they started Christian schools, they started saying to the Muslims who want to attend, no, you can't come unless you want to become Christian after grade 4. Now, what our forefathers did was to say, no, you're not going to do that to us. You can keep your education. We are going to teach our children how to do a craft. And the craftsman is going to teach him about his faith. And we're going to teach him about his faith because the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives the rizq. He gives sustenance, not you. And so they developed that kind of a guild system where they trained one another, the craftsmanship, even though some of them couldn't read, but they were the best craftsmen. And they sustained themselves with the qudra of the power of the Creator. And they could, in actual fact, employ their own children and they can employ other people. And some people became Muslim because they could get jobs from the Muslims in the Cape. So the Cape Muslim history is extremely powerful. And what the colonialist is trying to do was to give the Muslims a bad name by saying they are descendants of slaves, which is not true. But because they can't beat the Muslims in terms of their spirit of work and the quality of their message, of what they're doing, they try to create a kind of a psychological trap in which they must think that they were descendants of slaves. And there's no evidence for that, alhamdulillah. So because Muslims will fight. You can't put a Muslim in, he'll fight. And because, if he dies, he's going to go to Jannah. It's very difficult to fight somebody who wants to go to heaven while you want to go and live on. So then the British and the Dutch, they knew, you don't take Muslims as slaves because you're going to have a problem. And if you want to know how can we say that? Why did they then send Sheikh Yusuf and Tuanguru to the Cape? And why did they give the Muslims in the Cape the freedom to be Muslims? Because they didn't want the Muslims to come into uprising in Indonesia and in Malaysia and those places, because they knew they have a difficulty in subduing them. And they will have a difficulty here at the Cape if they should do it here. So the Muslims of the Cape were always free from 1658 onwards when they arrived. Had their own madrasas, their own masajid, their own faith, etc. And their own names, they could marry, etc. The slaves could never do that. And they built basically the Boer. They built the Cape, alhamdulillah. They dressed the colonialists because they were the tailors. So this is like very interesting kind of information. I'm just touching on it. I hope I will have more opportunities to share with you. And I hope you will enjoy that. I hope you will be able to see it, inshallah. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.